Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Today, we're tackling something that drives every single one of us crazy: dealing with difficult people. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The coworker who takes credit for your ideas. The neighbor who plays music at 2 a.m. The relative who always has to be right. The stranger on the subway who thinks personal space is a myth. Here's what might surprise you. People have been complaining about jerks, narcissists, and difficult personalities for over 2,000 years. The ancient Stoics dealt with the same frustrations we face today. They wrote about people who cut in line at the public baths, neighbors who wouldn't stop gossiping, and even emperors had to handle citizens who smelled absolutely terrible. But here's where it gets interesting. The Stoics didn't just complain about these people. They developed a complete system for handling them. Not through confrontation or revenge, but through wisdom that actually works. These weren't ivory tower philosophers either. Marcus Aurelius ran the entire Roman Empire while dealing with backstabbers and power-hungry politicians. Epictetus taught students who constantly challenged and disrespected him. They lived in the real world, facing real jerks just like us. What you're about to learn isn't some feel-good philosophy that falls apart the moment someone cuts you off in traffic. These are battle-tested strategies that have worked for centuries. We'll explore 8 specific Stoic techniques that will completely change how you handle difficult people. From the annoying to the truly toxic, from strangers to family members, you'll discover how to maintain your peace of mind no matter who you're dealing with. The best part? You don't need to change anyone else. You don't need to win arguments or prove you're right. The Stoics understood something profound. The only person you can truly control is yourself. And that's exactly where your power lies. So, whether you're dealing with a narcissistic boss, a dramatic friend, or that person who always seems to find you on public transportation, these ancient strategies will show you how to handle them like a true Stoic. Think about it. Every single day you encounter people who test your patience. Maybe it's the person who takes forever at the coffee shop while you're running late. Perhaps it's the family member who brings drama to every gathering. Or it could be that online troll who seems to exist just to make others miserable. These interactions drain our energy, spike our stress levels, and sometimes ruin entire days. But what if I told you that 2,000 years ago, philosophers figured out how to stay completely calm in these exact situations? That's the power of Stoic philosophy. It's not about becoming emotionless or passive. It's about developing an unshakable inner strength that no difficult person can disturb. Ready to learn how? Let's dive into the first situation, one I guarantee you've experienced. 1. When public transportation tests your patience. You're squeezed into a subway car during Chicago's morning rush hour. The train is delayed, as usual. You're already running late for work. Then it happens. The person next to you pulls out their phone, puts it on speaker, and starts arguing with someone at full volume. The smell of their breakfast sandwich mixed with too much cologne makes your stomach turn. When another passenger politely asks them to use headphones, they respond with a string of profanity that would make a sailor blush. Your blood pressure rises. Your jaw clenches. You fantasize about grabbing that phone and tossing it out at the next stop. Every fiber of your being wants to scream at this person. But here's the thing, you're not alone in this experience. Whether it's the New York subway, the LA metro, or any public transportation system in America, we've all been there. We've all felt that rage bubbling up when someone treats a public space like their personal living room. Now, let me share something that will change how you see these situations forever. 2,000 years ago, a former slave turned philosopher named Epictetus taught his students a principle that applies perfectly to your morning commute nightmare. He called it understanding the nature of things. Epictetus would say that getting angry at inconsiderate people on public transportation is like getting angry at rain for being wet. It's simply the nature of the activity. Think about what public transportation really is. You're putting hundreds of strangers from all walks of life into a confined space. Some are having the worst day of their lives. Others were never taught basic courtesy. A few might be dealing with mental health challenges. When you combine stress, diversity, and proximity, you're going to get friction. That's not pessimism, that's reality. Epictetus taught his students to ask themselves a simple question before any activity. What is the nature of what I'm about to do? Going to a concert? Expect loud crowds and long lines. Driving in rush hour? Expect traffic and aggressive drivers. Taking public transportation? Expect delays, crowds, and yes, people who seem to have forgotten how to behave in public. But Epictetus didn't stop there. He said the goal isn't just to get where you're going, it's to maintain your inner peace while doing it. He put it this way: when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Harsh? Maybe. Realistic? Absolutely. Here's where the Stoic magic happens. Once you accept the nature of public transportation, you stop being surprised by difficult people. You expect them. And when you expect something, it loses its power to upset you. That person on speakerphone, they're not ruining your day. They're exactly what you should have anticipated. It's like preparing for rain by bringing an umbrella. You don't get angry at the clouds. You simply come prepared. But what about your actual response in the moment? The Stoics had an answer for that too. They believed in something called the dichotomy of control. Simply put, you can control your thoughts, decisions, and actions. You cannot control other people, delays, or the smell of someone's breakfast. The moment you truly grasp this, everything changes. Let me give you a practical example. You're on that crowded train with Mr. Speakerphone. You have two choices. Option 1. You can stew in anger, let your blood pressure spike, and arrive at work stressed and irritated. You've now let a stranger control your emotional state. Option 2. You can recognize this as outside your control, take a deep breath, and use the time to practice patience. Maybe you put in your own headphones. Maybe you move to another car at the next stop. Maybe you simply observe your own reactions without judgment. The Stoics called this keeping your mind in a state conformable to nature. It means maintaining your composure regardless of external circumstances. You're not suppressing your emotions. You're choosing not to hand over your peace of mind to someone who clearly doesn't deserve that power. I know what you're thinking. This sounds great in theory, but have you actually tried this on the 6 a.m. train from Brooklyn? Fair point. The Stoics weren't writing from some peaceful mountaintop. Marcus Aurelius penned his thoughts while managing an empire and fighting wars. Epictetus developed these ideas while dealing with difficult students daily. They lived these principles in the messiest, most challenging situations imaginable. The next time you're on public transportation and someone tests your patience, Remember this, you're not just commuting. You're practicing stoicism in one of its purest forms. Every annoying passenger is an opportunity to strengthen your mental discipline. Every delay is a chance to practice acceptance. Every unpleasant smell or sound is a reminder that you control your reactions, not your environment. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. If someone's behavior is truly inappropriate or threatening, you can take action, call security, move away, or speak up if necessary. But you do it from a place of calm decision-making, not reactive anger. You respond instead of react. That's the Stoic way. Ultimately, public transportation is a microcosm of life itself. It's unpredictable, often unpleasant, and filled with people who don't behave the way we'd like. But it's also an incredible training ground for developing the inner strength that no external circumstance can shake. Master your commute, and you've mastered one of life's most common challenges. 2. What Marcus Aurelius did when people smelled bad. Imagine you're in a packed elevator in a Manhattan high-rise. The doors close, and suddenly you're hit with a wave of body odor so intense it makes your eyes water. The source? Your new coworker who apparently believes deodorant is optional. You hold your breath, counting the floors, wondering how someone can be so oblivious to their own smell. Now imagine dealing with this not just for a 30-second elevator ride, but every single day as the most powerful person in the ancient world. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome from 161 to 180 AD, faced this exact problem constantly. But unlike us, he couldn't just avoid smelly people or work from home. As emperor, he had to meet with citizens, senators, and soldiers from all walks of life. Many of them, to put it delicately, didn't share our modern hygiene standards. Yet this philosopher-emperor found a way to handle even the most offensive odors with grace and wisdom. In his personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote something remarkable about dealing with people who smell bad. He said, "Don't be irritated at people's smell or bad breath. What's the point? With that mouth, with those armpits, they're going to produce that odor." At first glance, this might seem like he's just stating the obvious. But dig deeper, and you'll find a profound lesson about human nature and acceptance. Marcus Aurelius understood something we often forget in our deodorized, air-conditioned world. The human body is biological. Sweats, it smells, it makes noises. That's not a moral failing, it's physics and chemistry. Getting angry at someone for smelling bad is like getting angry at fire for being hot. It's simply the nature of the thing. But here's where his wisdom gets really practical for us modern folks. Think about your office in downtown Los Angeles. Maybe there's that one person who microwaves fish in the break room. Or the gym buddy in your Denver fitness center who seems allergic to shower gel. Perhaps it's your apartment neighbor in Boston whose cooking smells invade your living space every evening. These sensory assaults feel personal, like someone is deliberately trying to make your life miserable. But are they really? Marcus Aurelius would ask you to consider the person behind the smell. Maybe your coworker comes from a culture with different hygiene norms. Perhaps your gym buddy rushes to work out between two jobs and doesn't have time to shower. Your neighbor might be cooking traditional foods that remind them of home. The smell is real, but the intent to offend probably isn't. But the emperor didn't just preach acceptance. He offered a practical solution that's pure genius in its simplicity. He continued, "But they have a brain. Can't they figure it out? Can't they recognize the problem? So you have a brain as well. Good for you. Then use your logic to awaken his. Show him. Make him realize it. If he'll listen, then you'll have solved the problem. Without anger. Let's break this down because it's absolutely brilliant. Marcus Aurelius is saying you have exactly two options when someone smells bad. Option 1. You can politely, privately, and compassionately let them know. Maybe they genuinely don't realize. Maybe no one has ever told them. A quiet, "Hey, I wanted to let you know in case you weren't aware." Conversation could solve everything. No judgment, no embarrassment, just human-to-human communication. Option 2. If they don't listen or don't care, then you accept it and move on. Because here's the hard truth. You cannot control another person's hygiene choices. You can't force someone to shower, wear deodorant, or change their diet. That's their choice, their body, their life. What you can control is your reaction to the smell. I know what you're thinking. Easy for you to say. You're not sitting next to Stinky Steve for 8 hours a day. And you're right. It's not easy. But consider this: Marcus Aurelius dealt with far worse than we do. Roman baths were public and not always clean. People rarely bathed daily. Dental hygiene was primitive at best. The emperor literally held court with people who probably smelled like a gym locker room that hadn't been cleaned in months. If he could handle it while running an empire, we can handle Steve from accounting. The Stoic approach to bad smells is really about something much bigger. It's about choosing your battles. Every moment you spend fuming about someone's body odor is a moment you're not focused on your work, your goals, or your peace of mind. You're letting someone else's armpits control your emotional state. When you think about it that way, it seems pretty absurd, doesn't it? Here's a practical exercise inspired by Marcus Aurelius. The next time you encounter an offensive smell, pause and ask yourself 3 questions. First, is this person aware of the issue? If not, can I tell them kindly? Second, if they are aware or won't change, can I minimize my exposure? Maybe sit elsewhere, open a window, or use some subtle air freshener. Third, if I can't change the situation, can I change my focus? Instead of fixating on the smell, can I direct my attention to something productive? Marcus Aurelius also reminds us that we probably offend others' senses too, even if we don't realize it. Maybe your perfume is too strong for some people. Perhaps your lunch choices aren't appreciated by your vegetarian colleagues. We all exist in shared spaces, producing sights, sounds, and yes, smells that others have to deal with. A little mutual tolerance goes a long way. The emperor's approach wasn't about becoming noseblind or pretending bad smells don't exist. It was about proportional response. Bad breath is annoying, but it's not a moral crisis. Body odor is unpleasant, but it's not a personal attack. These are minor inconveniences in the grand scheme of life, and treating them as such preserves our mental energy for things that actually matter. There's also a hidden benefit to practicing tolerance with smells. It builds your overall resilience. If you can stay calm when your nostrils are under assault, you can stay calm in a difficult meeting. If you can show compassion to someone who smells bad, you can show compassion when someone makes a mistake. These small practices of patience add up to major character development. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, and betrayals during his reign. Yet he took time to write about dealing with bad breath and body odor. Why? because he understood that how we handle small annoyances reveals and shapes our character. Every interaction, even the smelly ones, is an opportunity to practice virtue. The next time you're trapped in a confined space with someone whose hygiene leaves much to be desired, remember the emperor's wisdom. You have a choice. You can let their smell ruin your day, or you can see it as a chance to practice Stoic principles. You can rage internally about their inconsideration, or you can cultivate compassion for a fellow human who might be struggling in ways you don't understand. The smell is the same either way, but your experience of it is entirely up to you. 3. The Roman bathhouse secret to staying calm. The scene is all too familiar. You've just paid $40 for a day pass at a trendy Miami Beach fitness club. You're looking forward to a peaceful swim after a stressful week. But the moment you enter the pool area, chaos erupts. A group of teenagers are doing cannonballs, despite the no diving signs. Someone's blasting music from a waterproof speaker. A couple is having a loud argument in the hot tub. Your relaxing afternoon just became a test of patience. Now travel back 2,000 years to ancient Rome. The public bathhouses were the fitness clubs, spas, and social centers all rolled into one. Romans of every social class gathered there daily to exercise, bathe, socialize, and conduct business. But here's what might surprise you. They dealt with the exact same annoyances we face today. People hogged the best spots, splashed water everywhere, stole belongings, and acted like complete jerks in what should have been a peaceful environment. Enter Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who understood this problem so well that he made it a cornerstone of his teaching. After being banished from Rome, he set up a school in Nicopolis, Greece, where he taught young Romans how to apply philosophy to real life. One of his most practical lessons? How to stay calm in the bathhouse. A lesson that translates perfectly to every crowded public space we navigate today. Epictetus didn't sugarcoat reality. He told his students straight up, when you go to the bathhouse, say to yourself, I want to bathe, but I also want to maintain my freedom of choice and inner peace. Notice he didn't say, I want to bathe in perfect silence with respectful people who follow all the rules. He knew that was fantasy. Instead, he taught something revolutionary: expect the chaos, and you won't be disappointed by it. Think about this for a moment. When you head to your local gym in Seattle or a public pool in Phoenix, what are you really expecting? If you're honest, you're probably hoping for a magazine-perfect experience. Clean facilities, courteous people, everything running smoothly. But when has that ever been reality? There's always someone grunting too loud in the weight room, leaving equipment everywhere, or treating the locker room like their personal bathroom. Epictetus would say you're setting yourself up for misery. You're not just going to a place, you're entering a human ecosystem with all its messiness. His advice was simple but profound. Remind yourself what happens at bathhouses. People splash water, they push, they use abusive language, they steal. This is the nature of the activity. By expecting these behaviors, you remove their power to surprise and anger you. But here's where Epictetus gets really practical. He didn't just tell people to lower their expectations and suffer in silence. He offered a mental framework that's pure genius. He said when something annoying happens at the bathhouse, you should tell yourself, this is exactly what I expected might happen. I didn't come here just to bathe. I came to bathe while maintaining my composure no matter what happens around me. Let me translate this to your morning workout routine in a crowded Chicago gym. You walk in knowing that someone might not wipe down the equipment. Someone else might monopolize the squat rack for an hour. The music might be terrible. These aren't surprises. They're predictable aspects of sharing space with other humans. Your real workout isn't just physical. It's mental. Can you maintain your cool when the environment tests you? This approach completely flips the script on public spaces. Instead of seeing disruptions as ruining your experience, you see them as part of the experience. It's like going to a concert and complaining about the crowd. The crowd is part of what makes it a concert. Similarly, dealing with difficult people is part of what makes public spaces public. Epictetus noticed that people get most upset when reality violates their expectations. You expect a quiet pool, you get chaos. You expect clean equipment, you get sweaty benches. The gap between expectation and reality is where suffering lives. Close that gap by adjusting your expectations, and you've eliminated most of your frustration before it even starts. Here's how this works in practice. Tomorrow, before you head to your local public pool, gym, or even a busy Starbucks, take 30 seconds to mentally prepare. Tell yourself, I'm about to enter a shared space. There will probably be someone doing something annoying. Equipment might be unavailable. It might be louder than I'd like. That's okay. My goal isn't to have a perfect experience. It's to accomplish what I came for while practicing patience. This isn't pessimism or defeatism. It's strategic realism. Navy SEALs train for worst-case scenarios not because they want bad things to happen, but because preparation prevents panic. Epictetus is teaching the same principle for daily life. Prepare for jerks, and they can't throw you off balance. The Bathhouse teaching reveals something profound about choice. Every moment in a public space, you're making choices. Not just whether to swim or lift weights, but whether to let others control your emotional state. When someone splashes you at the pool, you choose your response. When someone cuts in line at the gym, you choose your reaction. These micro-choices add up to macro-character. Epictetus would often ask his students, what's more important, getting clean at the bathhouse or keeping your mind clean from anger and frustration? The answer seems obvious, but watch how people act in public spaces. They'll ruin their entire day over someone else's rudeness, poisoning their own mind while trying to cleanse their body. I'll share a modern application of this principle. A friend of mine uses her time at the crowded LA Fitness as Stoic training. Every annoyance becomes a rep in her mental workout. Someone doesn't re-rack weights? That's a patience rep. Music too loud? That's a tolerance rep. By the end of her physical workout, she's also completed a full mental training session. She leaves stronger in body and mind. The Roman bathhouse secret isn't really about bathhouses at all. It's about recognizing that every public space is a classroom for character development. Every difficult person is a teacher, whether they know it or not. Every disruption is a chance to practice the composure that Epictetus valued above all else. The next time you're in a crowded public space and feel your blood pressure rising, remember the bathhouse teaching. You're not just there to swim, work out, or grab coffee. You're there to do those things while maintaining your inner peace. That's the real victory. 4. Why you can't change annoying people, and what to do instead. You're sitting in a conference room in downtown San Francisco. Your coworker is doing it again, interrupting everyone, dismissing ideas, and somehow turning every discussion into a monologue about their achievements. You've tried everything. gentle hints, direct feedback, even a heart-to-heart conversation over coffee. Nothing works. They're still the same annoying, self-absorbed person who makes every meeting a nightmare. Sound familiar? Here's a truth bomb that might sting a little. You cannot change other people. Not your annoying coworker. Not your inconsiderate neighbor. Not even your closest family members. This isn't pessimism, it's physics. Just as you can't make water flow uphill or make the sun rise in the west, you can't force another human being to change their personality, habits, or behavior. The Stoics understood this fundamental law of human nature, and it's time we learned it too. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, grappled with this reality daily. He wrote in his private journal, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. Think about that. The emperor, who could literally order executions, recognized he had no real power over other people's choices. If Marcus Aurelius couldn't control others, what makes us think we can? But the Stoics didn't just throw up their hands in defeat. They offered a practical alternative that's both liberating and empowering. Instead of wasting energy trying to change others, focus that energy on the one person you can actually influence, yourself. This isn't about becoming passive or letting people walk all over you. It's about strategic wisdom that preserves your sanity and amplifies your effectiveness. Let's get practical. Your neighbor in your Boston apartment building plays music until 3 a.m. You've asked nicely. You've complained to management. You've even called the cops. But every weekend, the bass thumps through your walls like clockwork. The typical response? Escalating anger, revenge fantasies, maybe even considering moving. But what if there's another way? The Stoic approach starts with a simple question. What's actually in my control here? You can't control your neighbor's music choices. You can't control whether they respect quiet hours. You can't control their consideration for others. But you can control your response. You can buy noise-canceling headphones. You can use white noise. You can adjust your sleep schedule. You can even choose to see this as an opportunity to practice patience. But wait, you're thinking, why should I have to change when they're the one being a jerk? Fair question. And here's where Stoic wisdom gets really practical. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about what actually works. You can spend months or years locked in a battle of wills with difficult people, or you can take actions that immediately improve your life. Which sounds more appealing? Marcus Aurelius offers another gem of wisdom here. When dealing with difficult people, he suggested approaching them with logic and teaching, but without anger. He wrote, if someone can show me I'm wrong, I'll gladly change. I seek the truth, which has never harmed anyone. The key word here is if. If they're willing to listen, if they're open to change. But what if they're not? This is where most of us get stuck. We keep banging our heads against the wall, trying to make unreasonable people see reason. We exhaust ourselves attempting to inject consideration into inconsiderate people. We burn out trying to teach empathy to those who simply don't care. The Stoics would say this is like trying to teach a rock to swim. Not only is it impossible, but you'll drown yourself in the process. So what's the alternative? First, make one genuine attempt to address the issue. Be clear, be kind, be direct. Tell your coworker their interruptions disrupt the meeting. Explain to your neighbor that their music keeps you awake. Give people the opportunity to change. Sometimes they genuinely don't realize their impact on others. But, and this is crucial, make peace with the likelihood that they won't change. When they don't change, and let's be honest, they usually don't, you pivot to plan B, radical acceptance combined with practical action. Radical acceptance means truly, deeply accepting that this person is who they are. They interrupt because they're interrupters. They play loud music because they're inconsiderate. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Practical action means taking concrete steps to minimize their impact on your life. Can't change the interrupter? Adjust meeting formats to minimize their opportunities. Structure presentations differently. Work around them, not through them. Can't change the noisy neighbor? Invest in soundproofing. Use earplugs. Take control of your environment since you can't control theirs. Here's a modern example that perfectly illustrates this principle. A friend works in a tech startup in Austin with a classic brilliant jerk. Someone whose coding skills are matched only by their terrible personality. For months, my friend tried to change this person. He organized team-building events, which the jerk skipped. He gave feedback, which was ignored. He even got HR involved, which just made things worse. Then he discovered Stoicism and completely changed his approach. He stopped trying to transform the jerk into a team player. Instead, he restructured his own work to minimize interaction. He scheduled his deep work during the jerk's meeting times. He communicated via documented emails instead of verbal discussions. He built alliances with other team members who shared his frustration. Within weeks, his stress levels plummeted and his productivity soared. The jerk didn't change one bit, but my friend's experience transformed completely. That's the power of focusing on what you control. You don't need others to change for your life to improve. You just need to change your approach. There's a deeper wisdom here about human nature. People change when they want to change, not when we want them to. All the nagging, pleading, and reasoning in the world won't create internal motivation where none exists. By accepting this, we free ourselves from the exhausting job of trying to be everyone else's life coach. This doesn't mean we become doormats or enablers. If someone's behavior crosses into abuse or illegality, we take appropriate action. But for garden variety annoying people, we save our energy for battles that can actually be won. The Stoics understood something profound. Every moment spent trying to change others is a moment not spent improving ourselves. While you're obsessing over your coworkers' flaws, you could be developing new skills. While you're fuming about your neighbor's inconsideration, you could be building a life so fulfilling that their noise barely registers. The decision, unlike other people's behavior, is entirely yours. 5. The two-handle method that changes everything. Your brother just borrowed money from you again. This is the 5th time this year, and he still hasn't paid back the previous loans. Worse, you just found out he's been telling family members that you're stingy and don't care about family. You're furious. He's irresponsible with money, and he's lying about you. Every family gathering becomes a minefield of resentment. You want to cut him off completely, but something holds you back. He's still your brother. What do? 2,000 years ago, Epictetus taught a concept so simple yet so profound that it can completely transform how you see difficult people. He called it the two handles principle, and once you understand it, you'll never look at challenging relationships the same way again. This ancient wisdom has saved marriages, preserved friendships, and kept families together when everything seemed lost. Here's how Epictetus explained it. Everything has two handles, one by which it can be carried and one by which it cannot. If your brother is unfair to you, don't grab the handle of his unfairness. That's the handle that won't work. Grab the other handle, that he's your brother and you were raised together, and you'll carry the situation well. Let's break this down because it's absolutely revolutionary. Imagine every person in your life as a pot with two handles. One handle represents all their negative qualities, their selfishness, their lies, their annoying habits, their failures. The other handle represents your connection to them, your shared history, their positive qualities, or simply their humanity. Both handles are real, both are true, but only one will help you carry the relationship forward. Think about that money-borrowing brother. Handle 1. He's financially irresponsible, takes advantage of your generosity, and spreads lies about you. Grab this handle and the relationship becomes too heavy to carry. You'll drop it in anger and frustration. Handle 2, he's your brother. You shared a childhood. He was there when your parents divorced. He helped you move 3 times. He makes your kids laugh. Grab this handle and suddenly the relationship, while still challenging, becomes manageable. This isn't about making excuses for bad behavior or pretending problems don't exist. Your brother's financial irresponsibility is real. His gossip is hurtful. But Epictetus is asking a pragmatic question. Which perspective serves you better? Which handle allows you to maintain the relationship while protecting your boundaries? Which view preserves your peace of mind? Let me give you a modern example from a dental office in Portland. A dentist friend of mine had a receptionist who was phenomenal with patients but terrible with technology. Every day brought new computer disasters, deleted appointments, software crashes, billing errors. My friend spent months grabbing the technologically incompetent handle, growing more frustrated daily. He was ready to fire her. Then he remembered the two-handle principle. He consciously chose to grab the other handle. She had a gift with anxious patience, remembered everyone's names, and created a warm atmosphere that kept people coming back. Instead of firing her, he hired a part-time tech assistant and moved her to a role that maximized her strengths. The practice thrived, and his stress levels plummeted. The two-handle method works because it acknowledges a fundamental truth about human nature. Everyone is a mixed bag. Your spouse who leaves dishes in the sink also gives amazing back rubs. Your friend who's always late also drops everything when you need help. Your parent who criticizes your choices also sacrificed for your education. Single-handle thinking blinds us to this complexity. But here's where people get this wrong. They think choosing the positive handle means becoming a doormat. Absolutely not. You can grab the "he's my brother" handle while still saying, "I love you, but I can't lend you any more money." You can choose the "she's great with patience" handle while still addressing the tech issues. The handle you choose determines your emotional state, not your boundaries. Consider your workplace in Manhattan. You have that colleague who takes credit for others' ideas but also stays late to help with deadlines. Handle 1 focuses on their credit-stealing nature. Grab it, and you'll seethe with resentment every time you see them. Handle 2 acknowledges their helpfulness. Grab it, and you can work together productively while carefully documenting your contributions. The power of this method extends beyond individual relationships. Think about your daily commute, your neighborhood, even your city. New York City has two handles. It's crowded, expensive, and stressful, or it's vibrant, full of opportunities, and never boring. Both are true. Which handle makes you happier to live there? Epictetus understood something profound about human psychology. When we fixate on someone's negative handle, that's all we see. Our brain starts collecting evidence to support this view, filtering out anything positive. Psychologists call this confirmation bias, but Epictetus identified it 2 millennia ago. By consciously choosing the positive handle, we reverse this process. Here's a practical exercise. Think of someone who drives you crazy. Write down all their annoying qualities. That's handle 1. Now write down your connection to them, their positive qualities, or simply their humanity. That's handle 2. Both lists are true. But which one helps you deal with this person more effectively? The two-handle method is particularly powerful for family relationships. You don't choose your family, but you can choose which handle to grab. Your mother, who criticizes your parenting, also raised you with love. Your father, who doesn't understand your career, also worked 2 jobs to support you. Your sibling, who makes poor life choices, also shares your DNA and history. This principle saved my relationship with a college friend who became insufferably arrogant after landing a high-paying job. Handle 1. He name-dropped constantly, bragged about money, and looked down on our other friends. I almost ended the friendship. Handle 2. We'd been through everything together. Failed classes, broken hearts, career struggles. When I grabbed that handle, I could see his arrogance as insecurity in disguise and maintain the friendship while setting boundaries. The genius of the two-handle method is its practicality. It doesn't ask you to forgive the unforgivable or love the unlovable. It simply asks, which perspective serves you better? Which handle helps you navigate this relationship with less suffering? Which view aligns with your goals and values? Sometimes, even the positive handle isn't enough to carry the weight. Some relationships become too toxic, too damaging, despite our best efforts to find a workable handle. That's okay. The two-handle method isn't about forcing relationships that need to end. It's about making sure that when we do walk away, it's because the relationship truly can't be carried, not because we grabbed the wrong handle. Ultimately, Epictetus is teaching us about choice. We can't choose the people in our lives, difficult colleagues, challenging family members, frustrating neighbors are part of the human experience. But we can choose how we see them. We can choose which aspects to focus on. We can choose which handle to grab. And in that choice lies our freedom, our peace, and our power. 6. When someone becomes too toxic to tolerate. You've tried everything. The two-handle method, radical acceptance, setting boundaries. Nothing works. Your roommate in your Seattle apartment has crossed every line, stealing your belongings, bringing dangerous people home, threatening you when confronted. Or maybe it's your business partner in Miami who's been embezzling funds while gaslighting you about the missing money. Sometimes, despite our best Stoic efforts, we face a harsh reality. Some people are simply too toxic to keep in our lives. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, understood this perfectly. He didn't preach endless tolerance or doormat philosophy. Instead, he offered a powerful metaphor that gives us permission to protect ourselves when necessary. He compared life's difficulties to smoke in a house. His exact words were, "Has someone made smoke in the house? If it's moderate, I'll stay. If it's too much, I go outside. This simple image contains profound wisdom about knowing our limits. A little smoke? We can handle it. Maybe we open a window, light a candle, deal with the discomfort. But when the smoke becomes thick and choking, when our eyes water and we can't breathe, staying inside isn't virtuous, it's foolish. The Stoics valued wisdom above all, and sometimes wisdom means heading for the exit. Let's talk about what too much smoke looks like in modern life. It's the supervisor in your Chicago office who doesn't just micromanage but actively sabotages your career. It's the friend who doesn't just borrow money but manipulates and guilt trips you when you say no. It's the family member whose behavior goes beyond difficult into abusive territory. These aren't minor irritations. They're toxic fumes that poison your life. The Stoics taught that we should endure what we can endure, but they never said we should endure everything. Marcus Aurelius himself, despite preaching tolerance and understanding, didn't hesitate to remove genuinely dangerous people from positions of power. He understood that self-preservation isn't selfishness, it's wisdom. Here's where many people get stuck. They feel guilty about leaving. They think, a good person would stay and help. Family doesn't give up on family. I should be stronger than this. But Epictetus would ask you a simple question. If your house was actually filling with smoke, would you feel guilty about going outside? Would you think a strong person would just breathe through it? Of course not. Physical danger is easy to recognize. Emotional and psychological danger deserves the same respect. Consider this real-world scenario. A woman I know spent 3 years with a business partner in Los Angeles who exhibited extreme self-centeredness and lack of virtue, what the Stoics would call the absence of wisdom and justice. He would rage at employees, lie to clients, and then charm everyone at industry events. She kept thinking she could manage it, influence him, protect the staff. She grabbed every positive handle she could find. But the smoke kept getting thicker. Employees quit. Clients left. Her health suffered from the constant stress. She developed insomnia, anxiety, and stress-related illnesses. Still, she stayed, thinking leaving would mean failure. Until one day, she realized something crucial. Staying in a toxic situation isn't strength, it's self-destruction. She walked out, started her own company, and hasn't looked back. But how do you know when it's time to go? Here's a practical framework based on Stoic principles. First, assess the damage. Is this person affecting your ability to live according to virtue? Are they compromising your integrity, forcing you to lie, cheat, or betray your values? Are they damaging your health, relationships, or ability to function? If yes, the smoke is getting thick. Second, evaluate your attempts at resolution. Have you communicated clearly, set boundaries, tried different approaches, given them opportunities to change? If you've done everything a reasonable person would do and nothing improves, you're not giving up too easily, you're recognizing reality. Third, consider the cost of staying versus leaving. Yes, leaving might be difficult. You might lose money, face criticism, or have to start over. But what's the cost of staying? Your sanity? Your health? Your self-respect? The Stoics taught that external things are not true goods. Only virtue matters. If staying costs you your virtue, the price is too high. Here's what leaving looks like in practice. It's the software engineer in San Francisco who finally quits the startup where the founder's toxic behavior creates a hostile work environment. It's the adult child who stops visiting the parent who refuses to acknowledge or stop their emotional abuse. It's the spouse who leaves a marriage where manipulation and control have replaced love and respect. Leaving doesn't require drama or grand gestures. You don't need to deliver a speech about their toxicity or try to make them understand. Remember, you've already established you can't change them. Leaving is simply recognizing that the smoke has become unbearable and calmly walking outside. No anger, no revenge, just self-preservation. Epictetus made another crucial point. Do nothing as one burdened or afflicted, or thinking that you are in a wretched plight, for no one forces you to this. Even when leaving, you maintain your stoic composure. You're not a victim fleeing in desperation. You're a wise person making a rational choice to protect your well-being. Sometimes people ask, but what if they're family? Epictetus addressed this directly. He said we're entitled to a father, not necessarily a good father. We're connected to a sibling, not necessarily a kind sibling. These connections exist, but they don't obligate us to endure unlimited harm. Blood relation isn't a suicide pact. Some practical signs the smoke has become too much. You dread interactions with this person. Your physical or mental health is deteriorating. You're compromising your values to manage their behavior. Other relationships are suffering because of this one. You've tried everything reasonable with no improvement. When these signs appear, it's time to seriously consider heading for the door. There's also strength in knowing you can leave. Even if you choose to stay in a difficult situation, knowing you have the option to go changes everything. You're not trapped, you're choosing. This shift from victim to agent is pure Stoic philosophy. You might decide the smoke is still tolerable, but you're watching it carefully, ready to exit if needed. Ultimately, the smoke metaphor teaches us about wisdom in relationships. The wise person knows that endurance has limits. They understand that self-preservation is not just acceptable but necessary. They recognize that sometimes the most stoic action is to calmly, quietly, and decisively remove yourself from situations that have become incompatible with human flourishing. The door is always there. Sometimes wisdom means walking through it. 7. Why I cut off my father, a Stoic decision. 5 years. That's how long it's been since I've spoken to my father. No phone calls, no visits, no contact whatsoever. If you told me a decade ago that I'd completely cut off the man who raised me, I wouldn't have believed you. But here I am, living proof that sometimes the most Stoic decision is the one that looks least forgiving to the outside world. My father exhibited what the Stoics would recognize as the complete absence of virtue, extreme self-centeredness, disregard for others' well-being, and a pattern of behavior that corrupted everyone around him. Where Marcus Aurelius spoke of justice and wisdom, my father practiced manipulation and deceit. Where Epictetus taught self-discipline, my father showed only self-indulgence at others' expense. The decision didn't happen overnight. For years, I grabbed desperately at Epictetus' two-handle method. He's my father, that was the handle I clung to. He taught me to ride a bike. He attended my graduations. We shared DNA and decades of history. Surely that handle was strong enough to carry any weight. But I was wrong. The smoke in the house started small. Broken promises here and there. Stories that didn't quite add up. Boundaries crossed with a laugh and a dismissive wave. I told myself this was just his personality. I could manage it. I could set better boundaries. I could love him while protecting myself. Classic Stoic thinking, right? Focus on what I control, my responses, my boundaries, my reactions. But the smoke thickened. The lies became elaborate webs designed to extract money, sympathy, and support from anyone who'd listen. He'd create conflicts between family members for his entertainment. He'd borrow money with heartbreaking stories, then brag about his purchases. When confronted, he'd rage, then play victim, then charm his way back. The cycle was as predictable as it was destructive. Here's what outsiders don't understand about dealing with someone who completely lacks virtue in the Stoic sense. They see isolated incidents and think, "That's not so bad. He's your father. You should forgive." They don't see the accumulated damage, the constant vigilance required, the emotional whiplash, the way his presence poisoned every family gathering. I remember the moment I realized the smoke had become unbearable. It was spring 2018, at what should have been a simple family dinner in Phoenix. Within an hour, he'd insulted my career, made my mother cry, borrowed money from my sister with a fabricated emergency, and somehow made himself the victim when called out. I looked around the table at my exhausted family and thought, this is not living according to nature. This is not virtue. This is voluntary suffering. Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound." The profound truth I'd been avoiding was simple. My father's behavior wasn't going to change. More importantly, his presence in my life was preventing me from living according to Stoic principles. How could I practice tranquility when every interaction was chaos? How could I pursue wisdom while constantly navigating deception? The Stoics teach that we're not entitled to a good father, only a father. Epictetus said this, and for years I used it as a reason to maintain contact. But I'd misunderstood the teaching. Acknowledging you're not entitled to a good father doesn't mean you must actively maintain a relationship with a destructive one. It means accepting reality, he is who he is, and then making wise decisions based on that reality. So I made the decision. No dramatic confrontation. No lengthy explanation he'd twist into ammunition. I simply stopped engaging. I didn't answer calls. I didn't attend gatherings where he'd be present. I removed myself from the toxic dynamic as quietly and completely as walking out of a smoke-filled room. The backlash was immediate. "But he's your father," became a chorus from well-meaning relatives. Some family members, unable to escape his influence themselves, resented my freedom. Others, still under his spell, genuinely couldn't understand. The flying monkeys, people he'd send to guilt me into contact, came in waves. Each one grabbed the "but family" handle, not understanding that I'd tried carrying that handle until my hands bled. Here's what I learned. The Stoic principle of accepting what you cannot change includes accepting that some people will never understand your decision. They haven't lived your experience. They haven't breathed your smoke. Their opinion, while they're entitled to it, doesn't determine your path. The first year was the hardest. Not because I missed him. I was surprised to find I didn't. The hard part was deprogramming myself from decades of dysfunction. I'd jump when my phone rang. I'd brace for manipulation in every conversation. I'd expect emotional ambushes around every corner. took time to realize the war was over because I'd simply walked off the battlefield. But here's the beautiful part, the part that validates every Stoic principle I'd studied. Without the constant chaos, I found peace. Without the emotional vampire draining my energy, I had strength for real relationships. Without the smoke, I could finally breathe. My anxiety decreased. My other relationships improved. I was living proof of Marcus Aurelius' words. How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. Some people ask if I feel guilty. The honest answer is no. Guilt implies I've done something wrong. Protecting yourself from someone who consistently violates virtue isn't wrong. It's wise. The Stoics valued wisdom above all else. Sometimes wisdom means recognizing that maintaining certain relationships is incompatible with living a good life. Others wonder if I'll ever reconcile. The Stoics teach us to focus on the present, not hypothetical futures. Right now, today, maintaining no contact is the wise decision. If that ever changes, I'll reevaluate. But I won't hold my breath waiting for someone to develop virtue they've lacked for 70 years. The most important lesson? You can honor someone's role in your life without maintaining their presence in it. I can acknowledge that my father gave me life without giving him permission to destroy it. I can be grateful for any good memories without subjecting myself to creating bad ones. I can wish him well from a distance without wishing him back into my life. Cutting off a parent is not a decision anyone takes lightly. It goes against every social norm, every Hallmark card sentiment, every family-first platitude. But the Stoics didn't care about social norms. They cared about virtue. They didn't prioritize sentiment over wisdom. They understood that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and even for the toxic person is to step away. If you're struggling with a similar decision, know this: you're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You're not required to breathe smoke to prove your loyalty. The Stoics gave us permission to value our own virtue, our own well-being, our own path to wisdom. Sometimes that path leads away from people who share our blood but not our values. And that's okay. That's more than okay. Sometimes it's the most Stoic decision you can make. 8. The hidden cost of getting revenge. For 3 years after cutting off my father, I fantasized about revenge. Not violent revenge. I'm not that person. My revenge would be success. I'd become so accomplished, so undeniably successful, that he'd have to acknowledge what he lost. He'd see my achievements in the news and realize his mistake. He'd reach out, humbled and apologetic, finally giving me the recognition I'd craved my whole life. I fueled my late nights and early mornings with this vision. Sweet, satisfying revenge through excellence. There was just one problem. I was poisoning myself with my own obsession. Every achievement became about him. Every milestone was measured not by my own satisfaction, but by whether it would impress someone who'd never truly seen me. I was still letting a toxic person control my life, just in a different way. The smoke had followed me out of the house. Epictetus had something profound to say about revenge that stopped me cold when I finally understood it. He said, "If someone has done you wrong, they have already harmed themselves by acting without virtue. Why would you then harm yourself by seeking revenge?" Think about that. The person who wronged you already damaged their own character. Why would you volunteer to damage yours too? Let's get practical about what revenge really costs you. You know that coworker in your Denver office who sabotaged your promotion? You spend hours plotting how to expose their incompetence. Those hours could have been spent improving your skills, networking, or finding a better job. That energy you're burning on revenge is finite. Every moment focused on payback is a moment not invested in your own growth. But the cost goes deeper than time and energy. Revenge fundamentally changes who you are. Marcus Aurelius understood this when he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When you seek revenge, you become the very thing you despise. You adopt their tactics, their mindset, their moral framework. You let their darkness infect your light." Consider what happened to a friend in her Los Angeles marketing firm. Her boss publicly humiliated her in a meeting, taking credit for her campaign while highlighting her minor mistakes. She spent months documenting his failures, building alliances, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. When she finally got him fired by exposing his expense account fraud, she expected to feel victorious. Instead, she felt empty. Worse, she'd become known as someone vindictive and dangerous. Her reputation suffered more than his. The Stoics identified something crucial about revenge. It's based on a false premise. We think revenge will balance the scales, restore justice, make us whole again. But it doesn't work that way. If someone steals from you, stealing from them doesn't unsteal your property. If someone hurts you, hurting them doesn't unhurt you. The damage is done. Revenge just doubles it. Here's where Stoic philosophy gets really practical. Epictetus taught that true harm only comes from damage to your virtue, your wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline. No one can damage these without your participation. When someone lies about you, they damage their own virtue of honesty, not yours. When someone cheats you, they corrupt their own integrity, not yours. Unless you respond by lying or cheating yourself, your virtue remains intact. This isn't just philosophical wordplay. It's a complete reframe of what injury means. That narcissistic ex who spread rumors about you after the breakup? They injured themselves by choosing to act without virtue. Your reputation might take a temporary hit, but your character remains unchanged unless you stoop to their level. The moment you seek revenge, you voluntarily injure the only thing that truly matters, your own virtue. But what about justice? Doesn't letting people get away with bad behavior enable them? The Stoics distinguished between justice and revenge. Justice is about protecting society and preventing future harm. Revenge is about personal satisfaction and inflicting pain. If someone commits fraud, reporting them to authorities is justice. Destroying their personal life is revenge. See the difference? I learned this distinction the hard way. For years, I thought my success revenge against my father was noble. I wasn't trying to hurt him directly. I was just going to show him what he missed. But every achievement tainted by this motivation felt hollow. I got the promotion, but wondered if it was impressive enough. I bought the house, but imagined his reaction instead of enjoying it. I was living my life as a performance for an audience of one who wasn't even watching. The turning point came when I realized something Marcus Aurelius wrote. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? My anger at my father, disguised as motivation, was causing more damage than his original actions. He'd stolen my past, but I was voluntarily giving him my future. Every day I worked for his hypothetical approval was a day I didn't work for my own satisfaction. Here's what letting go of revenge looks like in practice. That promotion you're chasing to show up your ex? Chase it because it aligns with your goals. That business you're building to prove your family wrong? Build it because it fulfills your purpose. That fitness journey to make someone regret leaving you? Do it for your own health and confidence. Strip away the revenge motivation and see if the goal still appeals to you. If not, you're living someone else's life. The hardest truth about revenge is that it often doesn't even work. People who've wronged you rarely see themselves as villains. Your father who was emotionally absent won't suddenly realize his mistakes because you're successful. Your ex who cheated won't regret it because you're dating someone new. They've already justified their actions to themselves. Your revenge fantasy requires them to have insights they're incapable of having. Seneca offered a powerful alternative to revenge. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Instead of trying to hurt those who hurt you, focus on creating something new. Channel that energy into building rather than destroying. Use the pain as fuel for growth, not for grudges. Let their actions be the end of one chapter and the beginning of your better one. The ultimate Stoic response to those who wrong us? Live well, not to show them up, but because living well is its own reward. Succeed because success aligns with your values. Find happiness because you deserve it. Build relationships based on trust because that's who you choose to be. Let your life be a testament to your virtue, not a monument to their failures. When I finally released my revenge fantasies about my father, something unexpected happened. I started enjoying my achievements for their own sake. That promotion felt satisfying because I'd earned it. That house felt like home because I'd chosen it. My life became mine again. The best revenge, I learned, isn't success or failure, it's indifference. It's building a life so fulfilling that those who wronged you become irrelevant to your story. Your Stoic Toolkit for difficult people. We've traveled through 2,000 years of wisdom together, from Roman bathhouses to modern subway cars, from emperors' palaces to everyday offices. The faces change, the settings evolve, but the challenge remains constant. Dealing with difficult people is part of the human experience. The good news? You now have a complete Stoic toolkit for handling anyone from the mildly annoying to the truly toxic. Let's recap your 8 powerful strategies. First, expect difficult people in public spaces. They're not surprises, they're predictable features. Second, when someone's behavior offends you, remember Marcus Aurelius. You can address it calmly or accept it peacefully, but anger serves no purpose. Third, approach every shared space as Stoic training, maintaining your composure no matter what happens. Fourth, stop trying to change others and focus your energy on what you actually control, yourself. Fifth, use the two-handle method to shift your perspective on challenging relationships. Sixth, recognize when the smoke becomes too thick and give yourself permission to leave toxic situations. Seventh, understand that cutting off harmful people, even family, can be the wisest choice. And eighth, let go of revenge fantasies that poison your future more than they punish the past. These aren't just ancient philosophy concepts, they're practical tools for modern life. Tomorrow morning, when someone cuts you off in traffic or your coworker starts their daily drama, you'll have options. You can choose which handle to grab. You can decide if the smoke is tolerable. You can maintain your composure while others lose theirs. You've joined the ranks of Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, using wisdom to navigate a world full of difficult people. But here's the most important truth. This journey isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming unshakable. It's about building a life so grounded in virtue that no jerk, narcissist, or toxic person can knock you off balance. It's about choosing peace over conflict, wisdom over revenge, and growth over grudges. The Stoics believed that every difficult person is a teacher in disguise. They teach us patience, boundaries, and the true meaning of strength. They show us who we don't want to become. Most importantly, they give us opportunities to practice virtue in its purest form, maintaining our character when challenged, choosing wisdom when provoked, demonstrating true strength through restraint. Your journey with Stoic philosophy doesn't end here. If this video resonated with you, if these strategies spoke to your struggles, then you've found your philosophical home. Subscribe to Stoic Vivu and join thousands of others applying ancient wisdom to modern challenges. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our weekly deep dives into practical stoicism. Share this video with someone who needs these strategies. We all know someone battling difficult people. Be the friend who provides real solutions. Like this video if it helped you see challenging relationships differently. Your engagement helps us reach more people seeking wisdom in a chaotic world. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Every viewer, every subscriber, every person choosing Stoic principles is part of a community stretching back millennia. Together, we're proving that wisdom transcends time, that ancient philosophy solves modern problems, and that inner peace is possible no matter who surrounds us. The difficult people in your life haven't changed. They're still out there on the subway, in the office, maybe even in your home. But you've armed yourself with 2,000 years of wisdom. You've got the tools. You've got the strategies. Most importantly, you've got the unshakable knowledge that your peace of mind belongs to you and you alone. No one can take it without your permission. And that, my friend, is true power. That's the Stoic way.